Topping today's news, the number of rapes so far this year concerns police. The government continues to make progress on industrial agreements. The Bahamas and Chinese governments solidify their relationship, and they look at how some schools fared on day one back to school. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Dorian. This is your JCN Evening News. Thanks for joining us. Rape statistics revealed by head of the Royal Bahamas Police Force's Domestic Violence Unit, Assistant Commissioner of Police Delarice Ferguson, indicating an increase in reported rapes. ACP Ferguson was speaking at the National Consultation on the Draft CARICOM Regional Gender Equality Strategy meeting on Monday. 51 incidents of rape have been reported between January and August. 48 were reported during the same period last year. Stats also show 69 cases of indecent assault reported, with 10 reports of incest between January 1st and August 23rd. As for unlawful sexual intercourse, 7 cases were reported to police, 39 incidents of unlawful sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 14, and another 37 reported unlawful sexual cases with individuals between 14 and 16 years of age. ACP Ferguson calling the numbers startling. She further notes that there has been 1 reported case of sexual violence with a mentally disabled person and 7 reported incidents involving dependents. Add to that, there have been 6 unnatural male sexual intercourse cases reported. ACP Ferguson says the Domestic Violence Unit is working diligently to make sure that if a report is made, officers leave no stones unturned. She urges Bahamians and residents to encourage those who they may know or suspect to be victims to call or visit the police so that they can get help navigating these difficult circumstances. The government hopes to sign another 4 industrial agreements before the 1-year anniversary of the Progressive Liberal Party coming into power on September 16th. This according to State Minister of Public Service Pierre Glover-Roll, who adds that the PLP has always been committed to labor, which they spoke of during the campaign trail, as well as through Memorandum of Understanding signed before the PLP came into power. Mrs. Glover-Roll says from day one they have had open communications with trade unions.
Those negotiations are going well. BPSU is at the table with our Labor Relations Unit, and we hope that we can sign that agreement as well very soon.
I mean, you're hoping for a lot of things to happen very soon. Realistically, how many more agreements can we expect, let's say, before you celebrate your first year in office?
I know that we are currently in negotiations with BPSU, Customs, Immigration, and Allied Workers Union. Those are basically coming to an end. BUT is completed. I know that the other quasi-government agencies are also in negotiations with some of their unions.
Speaking on the industrial agreement between the government and the Bahamas Union of Teachers, the Minister of State says they are very close to signing.
The document is now with the Financial Secretary. We're just clearing up a few financial articles, and I would anticipate that we should hear back from him today. So in short order, we should be able to sign and bring that industrial agreement to conclusion.
I mean, it's the first week of classes. Can we maybe celebrate that with a signing this week?
I would hope so. Like I said, it's in the Financial Secretary's hand. Once we get that back from him, the document will be cleaned up and there will be signing.
When asked what the signing of several industrial agreements in the past few weeks says about the current PLP administration, Mrs. Glover-Roll said it speaks to the administration's unwavering commitment to labor, which she says is something that was lacking in the previous administration. She also noted that the progress of regularizing civil servants is going extremely well.
I think that's going extremely well. When you put a focused approach on any project, normally you get the results that we're getting, which is movement, which is files being expedited, which is thousands of persons receiving confirmations, reclassifications, and of course promotions that have been in the pipeline for a very long time. There are 21,686 public servants, and of course that's growing. But we ensure that we're looking at this from a perspective of not only a focused approach, but ministry by ministry. So persons that may have fallen through the cracks, the proverbial cracks over the years, hopefully that we will be able to engage all of their files and be able to rectify any matters that are long outstanding for them. That process, in our estimation, is going extremely well.
Minister Glover Rose says during her first week in office, she held meetings with all leaders of trade unions to not only solidify her party's commitment to working with labor unions, but to expedite the signing of industrial agreements and bringing all parties back to the negotiating table. Additionally, she noted that negotiations with the Customs and Immigration Union have concluded, with those documents being prepared for signing. With the week-long events to commemorate and memorialize lives lost during the passing of Hurricane Dorian in September of 2019 already in progress, Prime Minister Philip Davis says his focus remains identifying the remains of those laid to rest during a mass burial in May of 2020, as well as bringing relief to those loved ones left behind, not just financially and physically, but also mentally. Prime Minister Philip Davis says he has consulted with Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Dowell in relation to assisting those who may still be struggling with mental trauma.
One of the things that troubles me is the mental health of those who went through the traumatic experience. And so we are seeking, the Minister of Health is seeking to engage more psychiatrists and psychologists and making them available to persons to call and to talk through their challenges. We still have to identify some of those the bodies that were laid in a mass grave. We're still trying to sort that out. We introduced we lessened the period of time for the presumption of death to bring closure in respect to the person's bank accounts where their family members could access it, to be able to deal with inheritance issues, insurance issues. We did that. And so that's one step towards assisting and bringing relief.
Events for the Dorian Memorial Week, which end on September 4th, include a memorial service, a wreath-laying ceremony, and memorial concerts on Abaco, Grand Bahama, and New Providence. The events, particularly the concert, have been met with some backlash from some survivors and residents of those islands most affected by the deadly hurricane, particularly for terms used by a senior member of the government's press corps deeming those events as celebrations. Prime Minister Davis telling reporters on Sunday that was not his choice of words.
Concern is because of the use of the word celebration. And I've never used the word celebration. As I indicated to the press before, we are commemorating one of the most tragic events that our country has experienced. And we need to continue to remind ourselves of those events because people are still healing. And so we have to be sensitive always. And yes, we get exuberant and carried away with our language at times, but words do matter, and we need to be careful with the words that we use. And even though it was an unintended consequence, I hope that that there are some lessons learned from the manner in which we speak, and that we be sensitive to the healing process people go through, particularly after a traumatic event like Hurricane Dorian.
Prime Minister Philip Davis presided over the joint signing ceremony to formalize agreements between the Bahamas government and the Hunan province of the People's Republic of China, with both countries sharing several priorities concerning areas of mutual interest, which he is looking to build on. These include matters relating to health, agriculture, and the human connection between our respective countrymen. Prime Minister Davis then reaffirmed the pledge of the government of the Bahamas to match the Chinese government's commitment to strengthening ties between both nations. As this year marks the 25th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the Bahamas and China, Prime Minister Davis offered sincere thanks to the government of the People's Republic of China for their continued support in helping to strengthen the Bahamas' infrastructure. In recent times, the Chinese government has donated medical equipment and supplies to aid the country's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and hemodialysis machinery and equipment. Monday marked the first day of the 2022-2023 academic school year, with teachers and students from all public schools and even some private schools making their way back to the campus after 2 years of virtual and hybrid learning. Education and Technical and Vocational Training Minister Glennis Hannah Martin greeted teachers and students at least 12 schools here in the capital as she got a first-hand look at the first day back to school. While students' return to school is being done in phases, Minister Hannah Martin says by Thursday, 100% of students currently enrolled in school will be face-to-face. She adds that there are plans to assess all students in the coming weeks.
Well, what's happening in schools nationwide is that students are coming in on a phased-in basis in most schools. And so differing grades will come in for the first 3 days. By Thursday and Friday, we're going to have 100% face-to-face, which is the first time in more than 2 years. Our young people are resilient, but this pandemic and all of the associated disruptions naturally will have some impact on many of the young people in these varying schools. So we're going to have to work very hard to work with them, to collaborate. We're going to rely very heavily on our administrators, like Ms. Daxon, on our teachers and the support staff and our parents and the ministry in helping to create a stable environment in what has been a very disruptive and challenging time for young people in this country and everywhere and globally. So we're excited. We are gearing up these young people to be the best that they can be in this year and in the succeeding years. And I'm confident that we will see this. In a few weeks, we will be doing universal testing to ascertain learning loss levels, if any, and to what extent. And thereafter, put in place acceleration programs for learning.
Exam results will also be analyzed to crack down on any deficiencies so that intervention can be made.
So we want to analyze these results and create the appropriate interventions. This is not an overnight job situation, and this is not necessarily an easy fix. But I believe all hands on deck that we can surprise the world with the results in this country. I'm confident of that, and that is what we seek to do. Cooperation, collaboration, so our young people can thrive and succeed.
Ms. Olivia Daxon, principal of the Thelma Gibson Primary School, expressed her excitement of having her little ones back on the first day and, more importantly, face-to-face learning. She says student enrollment is usually or unusually low at this time, but she is confident that more parents will bring their children to school. Ms. Daxon notes that she has also seen an increase in students from private schools enrolling at the Thelma Gibson Primary.
It's very much fundamental because you know that our students have lost so much time. And so now we are excited to have them back with us, 100% face-to-face. And at Thelma Gibson Primary School, we are charting the cause through collaboration, creativity, and commitment. So far, we have 615 students. We are looking forward to more parents coming in to enroll their students. I think once they see that we are serious about face-to-face, they will come in and enroll their students. So we're looking forward to all our parents to please come on down. We're expecting we want to have 800. And so we are good ways off, but we are anxiously awaiting those students. Yes, we have students coming in for the first time from private or from other areas. Their parents would have moved in this area. And so right now we are processing them so we can take them to their classrooms. We have the space for them, so we welcome them.
Ms. Daxon says she welcomes all students and is excited to be back to help students get back on track. And finally, in this segment, Minister of Education Glenys Hannah Martin on Monday emphasized the importance of face-to-face learning, especially for the children with special needs. She says the virtual environment did not facilitate them at all, noting that special needs teachers are at a deficiency here in the country. She says it is important that the government create space for those children in every school and give teachers the opportunity to get certifications in those areas.
We have a deficit in special needs teachers during the virtual education instruction. Those students would not have been able to cope appropriately because the modality of teaching special needs children, the virtual reality would not have been suitable. And so they would have really been denied during this period. So we want to ensure that we create spaces in as many schools as possible for special needs children, and that we have the appropriately trained teachers to ensure that those children, where it can happen, that they can be self-sufficient and they can be able to manage themselves in their own lives. That may not be the case in every case, But in where it can happen, that is what we seek to do. And then where extended care is needed, we have to ensure that happens. We are as strong as our weakest link.
Mrs. Hannah Martin says the government must ensure that all children, regardless of their abilities, be facilitated in their growth and development. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.